Testing one. Hold on. How about that? There we go. Testing 1, 2, 3. Are we live? We are live, I think. If you can hear me, let me know in the chat. Got to get the magical art glove on. Can't work without that. YouTube emailed me to let me know I'm live on my own channel, so I guess I'm live. I'm gonna just believe that. Sebs Bradley, hello, how's it going? Glad you're here. First live video, cool. Hey Chris, how's it going? Welcome all. I still need to figure out a regular YouTube time. I'm not there yet though. All right, let's see. So as you may have noticed from the title, this is from the Skullkickers RPG book. This was drawn by Steve Cummings, and we have this creepy person here. I don't think I have any notes on this. But let me go double check. Oh, I do have notes on this. Bogtith? Bogtith? I don't know how you say her name. The Sea Hag. Some kind of mystic robes, seaweed, and dripping water. Interesting. Kids sneaking around. Okay, so it's like it's a sea monster woman. There you go. It sounds like my ex. Hey, welcome, Jason. Hey, Tony. My timing was all off the last stream. Let me make sure when I press pause this. Make sure it goes back to live. Oh, okay, good. I thought you were messing with me, Daisy. Like, because at the very end of the video, I mean, the very, very end of the video, I was like, everybody, you know, thanks for watching. Have a good day, whatever. And then you responded one. And I just died. I was cracking up. I thought that was so funny because I had asked, you know, if you can hear me, press 1. Like, I wanted to see how bad the delay was. And like 12 minutes later, 1. I'm like, I think you're off. Out of the hospital, Tony? Okay, good. Did you say what you're in for? You don't have to if you don't want to. But I was curious. But if not, it's none of my business. But yeah, I'm glad you're out. Glad you're healthy enough to watch me color on YouTube, which hopefully you're pretty healthy. Were you the one making live comments on things happened 30 minutes? Yes, that's who that was. Hey Carlos, how's it going? Carlos, I think you're up to, what is that, bronze? Thank you for your membership. Tony too. I think was it stone, bronze, silver? No, there's wood in there before it's stone. Wood, stone, bronze, silver, gold, and then there's a secret one after 2 years. Which I don't think anybody has yet, because I haven't had it open 2 years yet. No, that was hilarious, Daisy. I was cracking up. Okay. Well, yeah, welcome everybody. If you have questions at any time, feel free to ask. And let me pop this chat out so I can see more of it. My camera is working again today. I don't know why it wasn't working last time. You watched in the hospital too? That's so awesome. You were septic. Not awesome. What set off the infection? That's some scary stuff. Septic, not good. I do remember that from my nursing days. All right, so as far as planning for this piece, this one's pretty straightforward. We got a big monster here in the front. We've got some kids sneaking around in the back. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to make sure, as far as, planes here, we're going to make sure this is, I guess so we can draw on here. There we go. So we've got this edge here and probably her hand. These edges you're going to need to read very clearly. These less so, but it's really this front part we need to make sure that reads clearly. So I'll make sure we've got plenty of contrast along these lines. And the back area, this whole back wall will be mostly the same value. We'll change this up here. I have enough changes where these kids stand out. Other than that, that's about it for this as far as the plan goes. This base color doesn't really matter that much. Somebody asked me the other day about why I started doing this, and I originally I saw other colors doing it and started trying it, and at first I didn't really understand why they were doing it. But the more I've used it, the more I realize what it does. And that is, so like, for example, if I've got this, whatever color this is, this dark blue green color, it doesn't really matter what the color is. But what I can do is if I set my flats as a reference, which I think it already was, there we go. Then, and let's say, and just as an example, I want to, where are we at? There we go. If I want to make this robe, darker and more saturated in the background, let's just say as an example, I'm not saying I necessarily want to do that, but instead of like picking a color and then like, okay, I want it more saturated and I want it brighter and I want it to be up here and maybe it's a little bit bluer or whatever, and just drop that color in, then, I mean, that can work if you're really good at picking colors that way. But I would rather like highlight that area and say, well, I want it to be a little bit brighter and I want it to be more saturated and I want it to be a little bit bluer or whatever. And that seems like a small shift, a small difference, but what it does is once you start establishing your main colors, then you're just shifting the colors that you want, in the direction you want the color to be, instead of just trying to pick the right color. I don't know. To me, it makes more sense this way. Not necessarily everybody works this way, but it works for me. Hey, Masato, how's it going? Welcome back. So this is like a sea creature, woman, sea hag, if we're going to get really technical. So we'll start with her, I guess. I also moved the camera to this corner so that you guys can see all these settings over here. I had some last time that people were having some issues. So seeing that. So like, does a sea hag have green skin, blue skin? Does anybody know? I don't know if this thing's been established anywhere. Oh wait, he sent some reference. Let's see. We do have reference. Okay, so let me show you guys the reference too. Oh, I forget. So in Photoshop, if you want to drop it on the canvas, you drop it on the canvas, and you want to drop it up here, it opens a new file. In Clip, you can't drop it up here; you have to drop it on the canvas. So this is the sea hag. So I was in the ballpark already. Green seaweed hair, blue. We're gonna have to do this splotchy skin stuff. That'll be fun. That's what we're doing here. Yeah, I was really close to getting that hair right. And her skin's actually bluer. It makes sense. I'll try coloring this way. P.S. My favorite colors. Oh, thank you, Seb. Can we call the sea hag Christine? Is that your ex-wife's name, Tony? I'm just going out on a limb here. Or ex-girlfriend. Yeah. Asking for a friend. Sure, sure. Use sea hag from Popeye as a reference? There was a sea hag in Popeye? I do not remember this. I'm looking it up now. I have no recollection of this character. I mean, I didn't watch a ton of Popeye, granted. Good stuff. And because the rest of her skin's so dark, I'm going light on the on her dress here. And then I don't, did he say if these keys were gold? I think he did. Big ring of iron keys. Okay, so they're not gold, they're iron. I ended up, let me show you guys where we ended up on the last two, because I ended up, after that stream, I don't think I was feeling very good that day, because I got done with the thing and got off stream and then looked at it later and I was like, I didn't do this enough on this at all. So I ended up going back and adding a lot of detail, actually, or more detail than I had. So I went in on this and added all this texture that you're seeing in the wall, dirtied that up some, put some actual wooden board textures on the door, which look cool. Yeah, just basically overall more detail. And then on this one didn't change quite as much. There's a little more contrast and add a little bit of texture to the floor. I think that was basically it. I did a little bit more painting, I think, on some details here and there, but anyway, that's where those ended up if you were watching those the other day. I like how, I don't know if I'll be able to do this on this one with no light source, but I like the how the seaweed is translucent, like her hair. The light coming through the hair is actually making the hair appear lighter, which is kind of neat. I don't know if we'll really have an opportunity for that on this one, but still pretty cool though. All right, so let's see. Let's change all this stuff. Really just trying to select like all of the background. Or at least on that, well, we could probably just get all this too. This is meant to be. I guess it's meant to be a big wooden door. It's hard for me to tell what this is made of. But like this is a good example of what I was talking about. So like, I want to move this toward brown, but you'll notice it's really not that brown. It's more of like a. I mean, it's in the ballpark of, I guess what you would call brown, but in the context around it, this is all it takes to start appearing to be brown. If that makes sense. Yeah, I gotta chat with my flatter again about details. All this is the same color. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry, I'm making some notes for my assistant. 1 second. So what's everybody up to today? What's everybody doing? Flatter's in trouble? No, they're not in trouble. They're just missing a few things. Are you flying again, Jason? Oh, fighting for yourself? Oh, okay. Let me know if you're ever back to... if you have availability. Every now and then my flighters got too much stuff to do, and I'll send some to somebody else. I'm glad you can't fly for me, though. That means you're doing your own stuff. Which is pretty cool. I'm going to desaturate, even though both these doors I'm going to consider being made out of the same thing, I'm going to desaturate the one in the background a little bit. Daisy's practicing shading and highlights. Always a good idea. Taking a break after completing 6 cover sketches. Nice. Hey, Matthias? Matthias? How do you say your name? Hello. You're screwing up Jim Lee. Jim Lee's hard to color. Like, I think... I know he's super popular, but, like, I don't think it's a good idea for beginners. Not saying that's you, Tony. I don't know where you are, but just generally, like, I know a lot of people love to color Jim Lee, but, like, that's some advanced stuff. He establishes a lot in his art. Still wonder how you manage to not get your colors less muddy and make the line work pop. It's amazing. Thank you, Sebs. How do you mean? How so? What part is confusing? Maybe I can help. Old time artist, new colors. Cool. See, these characters in the back here are relatively small on the screen, but I still don't want you to miss them. So, I don't know. I'll be doing something very different from what you see around the rest of them there. You did some color on Jim Lee's Asuka Langley? I don't know what that is. I don't... from Neon Genesis. Yeah, that's actually pretty clean. When I think about Jim Lee, I think about his Batman stuff, and there's so much rendering on his Batman stuff. This one? Yeah. He's good. But, like, even with this, like, he's giving so many indications. You guys let me know if I should do a video about this. I don't know if this is interesting or not. But, like, we got shadows here. We've got this rim light, not rim light, but like specular light along her arm. So that's like a kind of establishing some lighting directions. But he's also got like, he's got Terminators painted through here. And I see a lot of folks that don't know how to handle these. Like, unless that's part of her costume, which I don't think it is. And there's a bit of a rim light over here. But yeah, like to me, this is telling me like there's, unless that's part of her costume, I can't quite tell. But there's definitely a Terminator here, which means you would have 2 different colors on each side of that, most likely. At least colored lighting wise, like if you were coloring it realistically. practicing how to draw comics the Marvel way. That's a great book. I learned. I picked that up again the other day. Like I've had it since I was a kid. I actually bought a second one because my other one went to pieces, and the what do you call it? But I was just looking back through it again, and I know it by heart. Like I mean, I could probably, there's so many of those drawings I could probably do from memory, or not well, but I could try. And but looking back through it, it made me realize just how much that I do today is based on things I learned in that book 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, 25 years ago, maybe 30. It's been a while. Oh, Craig, you'll post on the Discord? All right, cool. Then you can tear it apart. Nice. All right, let's do these kids. Working on foreshortening. That's fun. Yeah, I think your lighting direction on that's pretty good, Chris. As far as like, I think you followed what was there pretty well. Why don't you color in PS actually? You must be new. No, hey Robin. I've got 7 years of coloring in Photoshop on my YouTube channel if you want to see any of it. But I've been using Clip for the last couple months. It's faster with the kind of technique I'm using on this anyway, lasso-y selection technique. It ends up going through Photoshop when I'm done anyway, because I have to have that for CMYK purposes. So it ends up going there anyway. I turned on an episode of Bob Ross the other day, and his son was guest painting. Apparently, he did it a couple times. He looked and sounded so much like Bob. Yeah, his son does look and sound a lot like him. No, I still use I use whatever tool works for what I'm doing at the time. That might be Photoshop, might be Procreate, might be Clip. I did some painting in Procreate this week. I'm planning to do like a big. I want to do like a huge, like epic painting that takes weeks and multiple streams to do. And I'm debating what to do it in. I'm leaning toward Procreate though. But I want to use all the principles I'm talking about in the new series, and of course it'll end up in a video at some point too, I'm sure, multiple videos. But anyway, so but you can already see, so like all this background, the values here are all pretty similar. The hues are all pretty similar, except for the kids. Same thing in the front. You know, she's really the only thing that's this cool on the page. So even really early on, we're already establishing some planes. We're separating, you know, areas of the painting out, or the areas of the panel out. And so that starts early. Clip is great. The more I use it, the more I love it. Yeah, the only time, like, I was in Photoshop this morning because some of the pages from the plot that I was working on, I do a lot of stuff with gradient maps, and the it has gradient maps, but like it's much slower in showing you what's on the maps in real time. So like in Photoshop, you can, well, we're not in Photoshop, but in Clip, you can have like, you can do a gradient map, but then, hold on, how do I've already forgotten how to edit this. Yeah, I can't remember how you edit gradient maps in this thing. But you don't see the changes until after you let go, and so it's harder to like dial in things you want, whereas in Photoshop, as you slide, it does it in real time. So if I'm doing something that has a lot of gradient maps, I like Photoshop. It just depends. It depends on what I'm doing. Why would you want to do that? I don't know what that's in relation to. It's too much time's passed. Sorry. I have a very short attention span. Do you already have your colors picked, or did you create a palette for this piece? If so, what reference did you use, and how did you pick them? Did I already have colors picked? No. I mean, I'm doing them in real time. Did you create a palette for this? I mean, this is the palette. Yes. I don't know how to answer that. If so, the reference, I just needed reference for the character. That's the only thing I needed, and this is the character. So we're working toward that. Why would I want to do that? Oh, the massive, because I want to have a big kind of flagship. This is what, honestly, this is what this channel is capable of, kind of thing. Something I can use in advertising, I can use it in videos, just to have really impressive art that is all mine. That is not someone else's. So that's why. On top of just, it's also probably going to be a tribute to my friend that died a couple years ago. I lost my best friend about, 8-9 years ago. And so it'll probably be something, there'll be some kind of tie-in to him. I haven't figured out exactly what that's going to be yet. But that's another reason. If I need to choose between Clip and Photoshop, go to the FAQ on this one. Commentcolor.com/FAQ. If you want to know, get the Clip versus Photoshop answer. I've answered it many, many, many times. But it depends on what you're used to. Depends on what you like. That's the short answer. But if I was starting someone from scratch now, though, I would probably recommend Clip Studio, unless you're doing print stuff, and then you pretty much have to have some version of Photoshop. Hey, Daniel, how's it going? All right. I have stared at this long enough. Let's start some rendering on this. So, let's see. What do I want to... How dark are these colors? They're pretty dark. So I'm going to start with... let's make this the reference now. I know that's right. What is on this? Nothing. I guess if I want to make notes for y'all, I'll leave that up there. Monsters, demons, all seem like they have bad hygiene. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on whether or not you can imagine, I don't know, them standing at a sink brushing their teeth or something. I mean, I'm having a hard time picturing that myself. Yeah, vampires are the exception. Vampires, they're are well put together most of the time. And I don't mind. I'm being a little bit just kind of rough with these stones because, I mean, they're stones, so they don't have to be, uh, completely pristine or anything. Any tricks on how one can push the background back not to compete for attention more than the foreground? Yeah, make sure you watch my last video if you haven't, because that talks about it quite a bit. But yeah, like whatever you're doing in the front, go toward the opposite in the background. Like if you're dark in the foreground, go lighter in the background. If you're lighter in the foreground, go darker in the background. If you're saturated in the foreground, go desaturate in the background. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of tricks you can do. I mean, and with the hue, it's the same thing. Like if you're warm in the foreground, go cooler with the background, like or lean that direction. You know. But yeah, it's the same. It's the same. It's always the same tricks. It's always contrast. The answer is almost always contrast. Like you're balancing areas of the image that are close together. Like this entire area here, there's not a big range of value. There's not a big range of hue, and there's not a big range of saturation. They're all very close to each other. So they're visually very similar, and which makes them visually boring to our, you know, the things that grab our attention visually. When you have areas of the image that are very different from that, it's indistinct, it's going to stand out. Value's the big one. That's kind of like step one. Figure out how dark or light things are. Once that's done, like you're 75% of the way there. Maybe 80, maybe 90. There's absolutely a hierarchy to of decision making when you're choosing colors. Like how dark is it? Like at every stage, you only have two directions to go. I'm going to get more into this in future episodes of Caveman Color Theory, but basically, I was consulting actually on a Batman cover. The company that I've never worked for or doesn't, or well, at one time, which I thought was interesting. But the artist on one of their covers contacted me about getting some help on something, and we were talking about this too. Is not people that struggle with color don't understand the framework of, how do I put this? Like the framework of options that you have, or they don't have a framework for making those decisions. That's probably the best thing. And so if you think about it in terms of first deciding, like if you're deciding on a color of anything, like, and in here, this one's pretty much already chosen, but like if I'm choosing the color for something, I first need to ask what the value is. You only have two directions to go. Okay. You can either go lighter or you can go darker. Okay. Than what's around it. And that should be an intentional decision. You know, is the hue that I end up with, is it meant to be lighter in the background, let's say, or darker in the background, or lighter than what's around it, or darker than what's around it? That's step one. Then figure out probably a saturation or hue. It doesn't really matter which way you go, but even with those, you only have two options. Okay. Is like her hair, for example, does it need to be any more saturated than what's around it or less saturated than what's around it? You know, you have to have a hue to have saturation. So maybe you pick the hue first, but even when you're kind of doing it at the same time, but when you're deciding on what hue to use and what actual color, place on the wheel, no matter where you are, you only have two directions to go. It's a long way around either direction, but you've only got one. You can only go one direction. You can either go warmer or you can go cooler, or you can go, if you're here, you're going toward red or you're going toward blue. If you're on the green, you're going toward yellow or you're going toward blue. Like if you're in the red, are you going toward this yellow or this purple? It's always a binary decision. Like it's always two options. And that's just to get your base color in. When you start adding all the other colors, you still are asking yourself the same question. Is it when you do a highlight, you know that it's lighter. Is it more saturated or less saturated? And what color is the light? Like, these are, it's a I don't want to say true false, but it's a 0 or a 1 at every stage. It's one or the other. You got to go one direction or the other. And then, so once you've figured out all three aspects of color is one of two decisions, it makes it a lot less easier. I mean, a lot more easier to choose those. Because like once you've, and then I've already done it on this one, or I would show you, but like whenever I go to, you know, decide what color something is, I'm going through that kind of mental formula on every time that I choose a color. I'm always looking at what's around it. I'm looking at what's next to it and deciding what relationship the color that I am choosing should have to the colors around it. Like you're never, I'm not doing much coloring, but I will in a second. You are always choosing a color in context every single time. Like you're never choosing a single color, or you shouldn't, I don't believe. Like if you're just picking a color and looking at it independent of everything else, there's a good chance it doesn't fit the rest of the canvas. It doesn't fit the rest of the piece. But by going in and deciding, how do I put this? You never choose a color in a vacuum. Like you always have to consider what's immediately around it, and then also consider the context of the whole image. So, like in this case, whatever color her hair ends up being when I do the rendering on it, I'm thinking about how those colors react with the colors that are on her hair and her skin and her body and what's around there. And then also keeping in mind that I'm also thinking about how that color needs to fit with the rest of the canvas, you know? So like on this piece, there's not a whole lot of bright colors or anything like that yet. So I've got I'll do brighter colors on her than I will back here so that those colors come forward more than the ones that are in the background. I know I'm talking about this like this is all really simple and it's easy to do. And it is when you have done it for a while, but those are some things that might help you get there anyway. Hopefully. Everybody got quiet, so I don't know if they're listening or, or completely confused. You guys will have to let me know. But anyway. Does that help at all? My big rant. Donut Tree, not confused, very helpful. I like the name, by the way. Yeah, I wasn't like, I'm not begging people to chat. Just give me something. There we go. I was listening. Okay, good. Feel free to lurk. You don't have to answer on my behalf, but it does help me to see if what I'm saying is clear at all. My head just exploded in a good way or a bad way? I was listening but didn't completely understand. Well, let me know. Like I like using these streams to help me understand whether or not what I'm saying makes sense. So feel free to let me know. Because that's what happened with the first episode. The first episode of Caveman Color Theory went through many different types of iterations, and people on my Discord, people in my members in the live stream, like they all kind of got early looks at it at various points and kind of helped me dial it in. So I figure I would throw it around here a little bit and see if anything useful came out. And of course, no one should ever feel obligated to respond to anything. If you don't want to, don't worry about it. I lurk on streams all the time. Trying to make this as simple for viewers as it is in my head will be has been an ongoing challenge. Will continue to be. I guess that's what every teacher deals with. Excuse me. My client keeps saying the colors are flat. When I add texture, it's too much. Can you help me with this? I mean, it's a broad question. Like I don't know how to. When you say you're adding texture, what do you mean there by there exactly? Notice too that when I colored that, I made the brush really big and I only used basically half the brush so that you get this nice fade action. It's brighter up here than it is down here. And there'll be way more detail on this, on her hair and you know, her character in general than anywhere else on the image. So something else to keep in mind. I've learned a lot. Did I say this already? I've learned a lot more in these streams than I did in college about color theory. I've checked out a live comedy stream by a local club last night. There were 2 people on it. Ugh. Ugh. Oh no. Lasso in Photoshop leaves a pixelated edge. Any fix for that? When you say pixelated, what do you mean? Sorry, I'm just need clarification. Like as in the edge is hard like this? Jagged edge, or is it doing some kind of fuzzy blending along the edge? Because that's aliasing. I never turn aliasing on. Ever. Or no, I said that wrong. I never turn anti-aliasing on. once I make some headway on this, I'll give you guys like another angle on that if I've got time. Maybe that'll help. Was that a rant? Did it sound like a rant? I don't mean to sound like I'm ranting. That's the problem. Someone says I like the ranting. I'm like, was I ranting? Could you talk through how you use layers and lasso to do highlights? Do you just like the opacity? What's your rule of thumb for picking highlight and shadow colors? Oh, that's a big question. For the first question, how do we do layers and lassos and all that? Go watch the video that I made on that not too long ago. I'll link it because I talk about precisely how I'm using the lasso. Quick clip coloring trick. My tongue twister of a title. There, watch that video. What's your rule of thumb for picking highlight and shadow colors? There's not really a rule of thumb so much as just like that's why I'm making this new series, like how I pick highlight and shadow colors, but I just haven't got to that point yet. There's nothing I can tell you in a soundbite that's gonna help that. I'm sorry. It depends on so many factors. I mean, in this case, just to make it clear, like her hair is green. I mean, it's meant to be greenish colored anyway, and so I went, if the light's warm, then I'm going brighter toward yellow, a little more saturated. Like like from the base color anyway, if that makes sense. It's probably a little too yellow right now, actually, but I can fix that. Rue Wilson about the blending layers. Again, much easier to just watch the videos they did on those. There's two videos that come to mind. One is the one, where is it? I can't remember the names of videos for anything. Yeah, I mean, search for blending modes on my channel. You'll find it. But here it is. I found it. Last the blending modes video, and this one is on hard light specifically, which is the one I use more than anything. Yeah, thanks for coming by, Jason. Alrighty. Kind of jumping all over the place on this one, aren't I? But Yeah, super attractive. Good evening. Welcome, Voltasino. I have to say, you have very good videos because you explain stuff well. Thank you. I'm trying. What drawing books would you recommend? How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way is really good. Loomis is his stuff's good. There's lots of good drawing books out there. I don't know. I need to pick up more of those myself. How to Think When You Draw. Yes. Yeah, I've got all those books. I forgot about those. Yeah, How to Think When You Draw by the who's it? Ellington brothers, is that, or something like that? Etherington brothers. I was close. But I'll link this. Their tutorials are all I think they're all free on the internet, and then they collect them in the books. But yeah, I got all of them. Save the link. Cool. It's quiet in here, maybe too quiet. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it gets that way. All right, what else do we have here? She's actually kind of gray with blue spots, so let's turn this down a little bit. That's so weird. Isn't color weird? So that base color on her skin now, you would say it's warmer now, right? It feels warmer? Like it's got some red in it, maybe? It's 100% desaturated gray. It's just that everything else around it is cooler. So it starts looking warmer. Color is weird. Let's see, I need to find some good messy. Are there any good texture brushes in here? I bought this set with like a jillion brushes. Friendin, if you Google that name at the top, you'll see it. Ooh, maybe that. Maybe. Maybe. I'm looking for splotchier. That we could probably do. So let's see. I'm just trying to put a little bit of like a mottled look. M-O-T-T-L-E-D-S. No S. M-O-L-T. No, model. What am I trying to say? Let me type it out. M-O-T-T-L-E-D. Yeah, I think I said it right the first time. Color, like smears of color, basically. Excuse me. And if the skin is wet, then it would be, you get them really little thin specular highlights too. Okay, how do you go outside the incline just now? How do you not go outside the incline just now? Go watch that video that I mentioned earlier. Let me find it. I'll tell you like a brief answer, but go watch this after at some point, so it'll make more sense probably. Yeah, this video. There's a couple things you have to set up for this. I'll run through them real quick. First, your flats layer, or in this case, my base color layer, is set as a reference layer. The magic wand is set to refer to that reference layer, and the lasso is not. It's just a regular lasso. So when I make a selection, let's say I'm going to highlight something on her dress, like I make this selection. If I switch to the magic wand and click on that area, as long as I have my wand set to refer to that layer and also make sure select from selection is checked, then it will take that shape and shrink it to the size of whatever it is that I'm coloring. And then I can color and it doesn't go outside those lines. If that explanation is not good enough, go watch that video. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna put some. I think I want to put a little bit of green on her dress, maybe. From. Maybe not. Maybe we do some subtle reflected lights up in here. Maybe. Whoops. Where'd my brush go? Oh man, I don't remember what the name of that brush was I was using. One of these. Alrighty. What else? I think I'm gonna do a. I did it on the last page. I'll drop in some like wood grain on these wood pieces in here. Let's go with a softer brush through here. I would never have thought that was 100% gray. Yeah, I know. There's a reason that happens. If you, I think I did a video on this a while back. Warm and cool colors. You can go watch that video too if you want more information on it. But let me show you why that happens. All right, so in that case, all of our color we can really see. All the colors that are on the canvas in that region are all like in here, right? They're all these greens and blues and all this stuff. They're all on this side of the color wheel. So, and this is 50% gray in the middle. So as you're going this direction, this gray is warmer than everything here, right? So like, because we're headed toward warm, like we're headed in the warm direction. So the second that you stop right in the middle, you've actually got the warmest possible color when the rest of your colors are over here. Does that make sense? So like you're moving toward the warmth. And so as these things get less and less saturated and they hit 50% gray, that gray becomes the warmest thing on the page. The same thing works in the opposite direction. So like if you, let me see here. I've done this example in videos and courses and everything else, I'm sure, but, I'll show you guys again real quick. So for example, I'm just going to pick a whole bunch of, cool colors or cool-ish colors. And let's see, let's shift around a little bit, shift the hue. Why isn't this coming out? Opacity, 100%. There we go. All right, so I'm picking all these different cool colors, right? I mean, they're dark, they're light, they're saturated, they're desaturated, but they're all cool, right? And we'll get in some blues. And maybe even getting into some purples. But all of these colors are what most people would describe as cool colors. So if I make a new layer and put this right at gray, put it right in the middle, so that it feels relatively warmer, okay, because it's surrounded by cool. But if I take that layer below and shift it around to actual warm colors, the gray cools off. This gray is on a separate layer. It's the same gray, but now it looks cool because it's surrounded by warm colors. So grays are very wishy-washy as it comes to warm cool. Like, it depends on how you're using them. It depends on what's around them. But yeah, I did a video a while back on warm and cool. Go look at that too. What are some of your favorite brushes for clip? I feel like the stock brushes are kind of lame. They're not as good as the Procreate default brushes, but I found some brushes by this guy Friendon. And also check the FAQ. I think I've got some links in there for that. But go to Friendon. It's like store.friendon.com or something. He's got like an 800 pack of brushes, and they're great. That's what I would recommend. I'm just realizing I want to go a little bit brighter on some of this. All right. What else? We're getting close to being done with her, I think. I need to find, like, let's see. Thanks, Kevin. I really appreciate these live streams. I appreciate you watching. Thank you. Have you found anything that reacts kind of like Procreate Smudge? I used that a lot, but I have not really found an equivalent clip. I haven't either. I don't do a ton of smudging. I think the ones that I did find, they were also in that Friendon set. The smudgers are weird otherwise. But even Procreate's, I don't like sometimes. Some of their default smudgers work weird in weird ways. But I'm trying to find just a dirty dirt on cloth texture so that we can I don't know why I say we. So I can grungy this dress up some. It's one of those things like you know when you see it. I've got a bunch of textures somewhere. I don't know why I'm looking online. I've got a whole bunch of them. Hold on. Oh, that might work. This is, I don't know what this is. Weird watercolor. Maybe. I reserve the right to change my mind. Maybe there. So I just dropped that on a new layer on top, and now I'm gonna select the dress and hit the mask button on that layer so that it shrinks it down to just that layer. I'm gonna strip all the color out of this because I don't want the blue showing up. And I'm going to set it to overlay, maybe. And then we can paint this out where we don't want it on the mask. So like I can soften some of this up or smudge it up if I want to. Yeah, that's better. That's soft light mode. And then I'm also just gonna I'm gonna darken the dress toward the bottom in general, just to help pull our focus up toward the top. How am I doing on time? How long has it been? Hour 25. Yeah, I need to stretch for a second. I'm gonna refill my drink. I'll be right back. I will whoops. There. Anybody remember that one? AOL Instant Messenger days. But hopefully you guys, so you can see so far, like even though this one's not done yet, we've still got to detail a lot of other stuff, but already um there's definitely a wider range of values on the character in the front than there is in the back. And when I do start rendering the kids in the back, it's they'll have their own highlights or shadows or whatever, but they're not going to be as far away from that base color as the colors in the front. Because if I use the same brightness highlights on them, then that's gonna your brain wants to put those on the same plane together. If they're the same color and about the same brightness, it kind of flattens it. And even though they're in the same room, like, you still want there to be a little bit of atmosphere in between, at least in my opinion. Questions, comments, concerns? Everybody hanging out? Our shoulder's really too flat. It shouldn't all be one color like that. I'm just realizing that. Because you would actually... Let me see. Where is that? Right there. Oh, also, somebody asked about brushes for clip. There's a brush in the clip asset store. It's a free one called Pure Paint. And it actually works really, really well. A lot better than a lot of the default ones, it seems like. There, that helps. All right, so excuse me. Where was I? Oh, over here. Now, these are iron, okay? Like, so iron has like a really rough texture, and so you don't really get like little small specular highlights on iron. These little things, these little bright spots, that's what I'm talking about. So the rendering is going to be simpler without quite as much contrast because of that. Now, if this thing was like chrome or something, then yeah, we could go in here and like do really, really bright reflective lights on all this stuff, but keeping it pretty simple. Tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and put. I'm gonna do this wood grain texture. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in here. Do. I reinvent the wheel with textures. I don't save the ones that I use often enough. And so I end up just like trying to figure out what I did before. Let's see. Just got Clip Studio, so finding my way around the program. We'll use texture on this page. Yeah, were you the one asking about textures earlier on the flat colors? Like, if this is the kind of textures you're talking about, textures aren't going to fix your problems if your colors are too flat. They're just going to add a texture. Like when someone says your colors are too flat, they're more than likely meaning there's not enough variance in the light and shadows. You know, your shadows aren't dark enough, your highlights aren't light enough, but like texture should never ever be like a fallback for detail, like because like there should be really intentional and very specific and only used in certain cases, in my opinion. Because it's very easy to very, very easy to overdo textures. I'm still looking for better wood than I have here. Let's see. Oh, that might work. All these sites are so spammy. I just want to download this texture. I don't need to install anything. I don't need to log in. I just want to download the freaking texture. All right, let's try this one. I'll also probably end up doing some textures on the walls on this too, just because Jim had asked for it, and some of the other other pieces I've done have it too. I'm holding down control and grabbing these edges to get the perspective shift here. Yay. And because it's on an overlay layer underneath everything, all the rendering that I did before, if there is any, I don't think I did a whole lot of rendering on it. But yeah, it's, well, the rendering that's there is still showing up. Zero M, thank you. Appreciate that. What's the blending mode of the layer for textures? I'm using overlay on this. Overlay or soft light, or yeah, this one's actually soft light and the other two are in overlay. Can you show an example of cool light and warm shadows? You asked this the other day, didn't you? And I missed it. Like, I don't know. There's no tricks here. Like, that is cool light and a warm shadow. Like if this was a face, an ugly face. But yeah, like it's just cool light and warm shadows. Like the shadows are or the base color here in this case, I guess it would be. It's not a great drawing, but there's you an ugly head with warm light and cool shadows. This isn't a soup kitchen. He's not giving lessons for free. Actually. Anyway, all right, let's color these kids. I don't know why 0M. I don't know why it's hiding all of your. I'm having to force them all through. Oh, don't ever. Internet is undefeated. How do I want to do this? I'm just going to make a couple of selections on this just so I can see what I'm doing here. And I'm just going to put a levels adjustment on this. And brighten them up just enough that I want them to be brightened up. Like this is too much. I think right about there, maybe? Sure. And now on that mask, I'm going to paint on the levels adjustment. Sometimes I'll do this if I know, like for a fact, I know that I want a certain look, or I don't want to pick a jillion colors for these things that are really not that big in the background. And I might end up changing this too, but I don't know. We'll see. Do you find the Cintiq easier than the Intuos? For this kind of like really detailed stuff, yeah. If I'm not like doing much drawing or selections or things like that, like I'll use the Intuos. But if I'm like doing a bunch of lines and really specific rendering choices, then I'll use the Cintiq. I'm changing the mode of this what you call it? This adjustment layer. And I'm lowering the opacity a little bit just to see if it makes it any more interesting than it already is, I guess. Are there any comic books you worked on that you recommend us read? Sure. Read as many as you can. I mean, if you like my we're not probably supposed to have favorite books, but Money Shot is by far my favorite book that I've worked on. It is it's a very R-rated book. It's like basically a sex comedy. So if that's offensive, if you're easily offended, don't read Money Shot. But that's like, to me, that's my best work, and it's as far as just being an entertaining read, I like Money Shot a lot. Hack / Resurrection, that's one of my favorites. Postal, Glitter Bomb. Yeah. I like my projects. I think they're good stories. Alrighty, where else? Anything else there? Nope. Okay. So you see, if you've been around since the beginning of the stream, so you can see now, like, the colors on these kids and the highlights on those kids are nowhere near as bright as the colors as the highlights that are on this character. If that's hard to see because the colors are different, we can do a black and white layer. I think. Is that what that does? Nope. Wrong one. Why can't I undo that? There we go. Maybe there isn't a black and white layer. Or if there is, I'm not familiar with. Anyway, you can also just put a color layer on top and fill it with gray. It'll give you a color mode. Fill it with gray. It'll give you the values. So you can really see that here. Like, these values in her hair are all really light compared to what's going on back here. That's the point I'm trying to make here anyway. All right, I'm going to put some, I'm going to find like a concrete texture. Or stucco or something. What is this? Man, I wish Pinterest was gone. I wish it didn't exist. Really, really don't like Pinterest. There we go. Hey, the mute button works. I've got a pretty new or new to me anyway, new mixer, and it has a mute button I don't think I've used, maybe once. It also has like that. If you ever do anything really exciting, we have that. Is that the same as using a saturation layer and turning the saturation to 0? It's not. Because saturation levels also affect value. You know what I mean? Like going across the color wheel left and right, it is actually getting darker. So if you change the saturation, you're also changing the value. If you don't believe me on that, you can start, especially in some colors you can see more than others, but especially like on the darker end of colors, but even the ones that aren't. Like if I go across here, let me get a better brush. This one. Wait a minute. So like that's gray, and what is this, like 50% saturation, and this is like 100. You see how this one is brighter than this one, even though the saturation was the same. I mean, this one's actually pretty subtle, but especially when you get into your blues and purples and things like that, you can really see, like, actually, I'll just put a color layer on top of this and fill it with gray. And then you can see. Why isn't that? Oh, there, wrong layer. Put that under there. So that's completely desaturated. That's at the halfway point, and that's on the far right. So those are. I didn't go down the color picker. I went across, and they're still getting darker. See what I mean? So like saturation, as you add it, very oftentimes will also darken. It's not like a binary thing. Agreed. Pinterest sucks. Yeah, like I like half the links I click are like spam and not what they're claimed to be. I don't know how that site's so popular. Really have no idea. I don't remember exactly which page you're talking about. It's possible it was wrong, or maybe it was intentional. I don't remember specifically. Who knows? All right, so I don't know. I darkened the ground too much, didn't I? Or lightened it too much. I mean, there we go. All right, let's go into Photoshop with this and wrap it up. Where's Photoshop? Oh, there's Photoshop. I wonder if this whole thing is not too... I'm gonna try something real quick. These are color lookup tables. They're basically kind of like think of them as Instagram filters, but not. um, yes, I warmed up the background just a little bit, and I think I'm gonna cool down this dress a little bit. I think that was my main problem with it, is it was also warm, like the background was. So I'm just leaning it toward blue a little bit. Did you have to calibrate the color of your Cintiq when you got it? I feel like it looks really good out of the box. Yeah, it's calibrated. Like, I calibrate all my monitors because, like, this room is really warm. Like, the walls are kind of like a beige color. So, like, excuse me, my throat just like, bleh. You guys hear that? So what happens is, like, even though this light I have here is pretty white, like, it's reflecting off all the walls, and and this light behind me is very warm. You can see on this side of my face, it's very orange. I mean, relatively orange anyway. So what happens is, by default, like, all my monitors look really cool out of the box most of the time. And so what happens is, when you calibrate the two, like when I calibrate one of my monitors, it gets significantly warmer. Like the first time I did it, I was like, this can't be right. Like it looks so different because it was so much warmer. But what it is, it's giving me, I mean, it's just like paint, just like coloring on an actual page. If I left it the way it was out of the box, like my perception is not actually what it's showing. Like it's going to appear cooler than what it actually is because of everything else around the room. And so if I didn't calibrate them all, they would look really different. And so and I've done it enough now, and I've had enough books printed that like the calibration of my monitors are really good. Like they really, whatever I color is what I see in print almost exactly. I've never really been surprised. So because of that, I pretty much make sure everything stays calibrated. I've got one of those Spider, what's it called? Data Colors, the company. The Spider 5, Spider with a Y because it's cool like that. So this thing is a sensor, and it hangs on the monitor, and you run the software that comes with it, and it pretty much does it all for you. They're a little pricey, but like I didn't really see any way around them, to be honest. I don't know what they cost, though. I can't remember. I know it wasn't like the expensive one. I mean, not the super expensive one anyway. They were all expensive, but there was some that were like ridiculous. Yeah, and the software is different depending on which one you buy too. Like I don't know. When did that thing get purchased? I don't even know. July 2017? That sounds about right. Before that, I was just eyeballing it. There, hopefully that helps. So I've just selected the foreground. I'm going to put a, right under the lines, I'm going to make a levels adjustment here and brighten this up a little bit. Just to increase the contrast on the character in the front a little bit. Maybe, hold on, let's see. Maybe we do a very, very subtle bit of glow over the top of this, maybe. And there we go. All right, I think this one's done. Same here, helps a lot. I was comparing the colors I saw for my Cintiq, the iPad, which I used previously, and they look really close. Yeah, I mean, the new ones probably come out of the box pretty close. I mean, so you're probably pretty safe. If your lighting is relatively neutral, like around it, then around your monitor, you're probably good. I love people that comment on YouTube videos telling me things don't work this way in the industry. That's my favorite kind of comment. It's like, what? Okay. So when you color it on your iPad around the house, you should have theoretically calibrated it. I use a surface all over. I didn't with the iPads because the color in those is so good. Like, I mean, they pretty much come out of the box close to perfect. I just doubled that levels adjustment on those characters just to pull them forward a little bit more. Since I brightened them, I could brighten them. And now I think I'm done. These parts down here that look weird are going to be cut off, by the way, if you notice that. It's not... There's some lines on this that you can't really see, but it's going to get cut off right across there. But yeah, I think I'm done with this one. You guys have questions or anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to discuss? Anything at all? The iPad does adjust, I think. I don't remember if I had that turned on or not, though. All right. I don't see any questions unless they're going to come in late. Or any other questions. But yeah, going once. There are no dumb questions, by the way. I know sometimes I have a habit of probably getting too advanced. So just because I do, like, doesn't mean you can't ask simple, dumb questions. not dumb, you know what I'm saying. Simple questions. There are no dumb questions. What is the meaning of life? Yeah, see? What is the meaning of life? Get the most out of it you can. That's all I know. How did I get my job? Which one? Looking forward to the new Caveman Color Theory episode. Me too. Like I'm still kind of the one as a colorist. I'll answer the question about the job, then I'll get back to Caveman Color Theory. I mean, are you talking about generally, like how I became a colorist, or are you wondering like how I got this job that I'm coloring currently for Skullkickers? I just want to understand the question before I go off on a tangent. If the answer is just how did I become a colorist, like go to comicolor.com/FAQ and it's number 2. How did you get into it? Did you stumble into it, or all along? No, yeah, I kind of I did kind of stumble into it. I wanted to draw when I was younger. I wanted to draw comics and thought that's what I wanted to do. So when I was in nursing school, this is not in the FAQ, but when I was in nursing school in 2012, and it was when my best friend died, and all of a sudden I had a whole lot more time than I ever had before. And I was also working nights. But my wife was working days, so I would end up on off days just be up all night with nothing to do. And so I started doing my own stuff, started working on coloring just my own artwork, and then kind of realized that was its own job, and realized that I could color part-time effectively. You can't really, I say can't, surely somebody is, but like it's really, really hard to hold down like a full-time day job and then full-time draw a book. Like, unless you want to work 100 hours a week, like it takes a long time to draw. Like, you know, a fast artist is only going to do a page or two a day, you know, and sometimes it's not even that. They might spend 2 or 3 days on it. And so like, I didn't have enough hours in the day to draw, even if I thought I was good enough, which I probably wasn't. But coloring I could do in my spare time, basically. Like I could do it part-time, you know, because a colorist can do 3, 4, 5, 6 pages a day, you know, so you can knock a book out in a week. So I started looking for stuff, you know, for coloring back then, and one thing led to another. Like, and it started getting hired more regularly, and all of a sudden I was doing it quite a bit. So it's a tough thing to get into. Like, it really is, especially now. Like, you know, when I was coming up, like, the internet wasn't like it is now. Like, you're in competition with the planet now. So, you know, yeah, and there is zero shame whatsoever. I, in fact, have more respect for people in comics that also have full-time jobs, because many, many, many people do in the industry. People that are working on, you know, writing X-Men and Avengers have day jobs in some cases. Like, you know, for different reasons. It's not everybody, but, you know, comics is hard. Like, it's hard to get into. It's hard to stay in. It's not like once you get a book, you're like, oh, welcome to the club. Here's a book every month. Like, that doesn't work that way. So, you know, you got to fight to stay in at this point, you know? And but don't take that the wrong way. Like, I know a few people, like, when I mean, Jim Zub is very open about the fact that he has, I mean, he's a teaching job. He has a teaching a job at a college. And he was also like one of Marvel's lead writers for like one of their massive events a couple years ago. So like, you know, the idea that like you're not legit until you're full time is bullshit. Pardon my French, YouTube. Don't demonetize me. Oh man, that reminds me. I got demonetized on the stream I did yesterday because there was like 4 seconds of Taylor Swift on Spotify in like the first 6 seconds of the video before I turned the volume down. I was listening to the new Taylor Swift album, and they took down or cut all the what they call it, demonetized it over those 4 seconds, and whatever the label was claiming it. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me! I just muted it, and then I got it back. How much does a colorist get paid for a published comic, and do you pay your flatter out of it? Yes, like it's pretty rare. I mean, it happens that like every now and then you'll have a company that hires a flatter for somebody, and usually it's a small company. Like, I don't think Marvel or DC does or anybody, but the flatter almost always comes out of the colorist's pocket. So whatever the page rate is, you figure $10 or $12 or $15, whatever you're paying your flatter, into that. So that's why I don't recommend anyone take any gigs less than $50 a page. Like, if you're hurting yourself, and you're hurting all the other colorists that are also trying to do it, because you're telling a publisher, I'm willing to work for less than minimum wage, basically. So I think $50, paying a flatter 10 of that is absolute bare minimum anybody should take. Nick Filardi did a video a while back on the math behind why that also works, and I agree with him. As a minimum, as a minimum amount per page. But that's on the low end. I mean, the high end, there's people that make $100, $150 a page. I mean, almost all big two work, you know, covers and stuff like that. I'm a new illustrator and struggle with not feeling legit. Yeah, you'll probably feel that way forever. I think everybody does. I don't think it's healthy. I feel that way sometimes. I'm like, I'm waiting in on any second for someone to come in and be like, this guy's not real. He's faking it. I'm working on my own comic book right now. Wish I could freeze time work on it. Yeah, me too. I have more ideas than time. I do wish, I do want to make, someday I'm going to make a comic book. It's going to, and it's probably going to end up being like, I might start with an instructional book. That's actually a long-term goal. The Caveman Color series is kind of like, it's like my opening statement, I guess. Like I'm trying to see what works and what doesn't. And I would love to do a book based around the ideas at some point, but I want to polish it up first, because there's at minimum 3 episodes, maybe 4, before I even get like the basics out of my system. Like we're not even getting into anything advanced, like just calibrating people's, minds around this is going to take a couple episodes. Do you think if you made a comic book, you could leverage your contacts to get it published? I don't know. Oh, I'll find that Nick Filardi video for you. There you go. I'll link it in the description. It's a long video. That's interesting though about my contacts. I have considered that. I don't have tons of publisher contacts though. I mean, I really don't. I mean, because if you think about it, so much of the work I've done has been for Image, and the colorist is very often not a part of the pitch process at all until the very end, and it's like, you want to color a couple of pages or whatever. With Vault's an exception though. I could probably, I don't know. Vault's crazy enough to publish it. That's not a bad idea to try. They're nuts enough to probably do it if it's good enough. Because I've kind of got this idea of making it like not for kids necessarily, but that simple, Because I've said this before, like my end goal for Caveman Color Theory is to basically be able to explain color theory using nothing but shapes and numbers. Like literally like not using terminology at all. And I think I can get there. I know I can get there. I've just gotta make time to do it. But the research I've done tells me it's possible. The problem is I don't know how to say this without coming across a little egotistical or big-headed or something, but like I've never heard anyone discuss color in these terms. I feel like I'm breaking new ground myself, like as far as like, I haven't been able to find anyone discussing it from the angle I'm trying to discuss it from. And again, I don't mean that to like, ooh, I'm smarter than everybody else. I don't mean that at all. It's what's making this hard though, is because like I can't look at another video or another book or another person's idea and be like, oh, I'll base it loosely on that. Like the series has taken so long to do because I feel like I'm having to dig out the answers, you know, in the dirt with my hands. Like it feels very, very manual of a process. Um, but um, but yeah, I don't know. That's the goal. I love your page, by the way. I love how much real world experience and advice you offer as opposed to just oversaturated generic art advice that's online right now. Thank you very much, Morgan. I am with you on that. I am actively disliking so much of what I see on YouTube. Um, there are great people on YouTube, and those are the people I watch. There's also plenty that are a complete waste of time. And that bothers me just as much. If you do a book on digital color, I will definitely get it. I've never published any. I don't know. I do need to find somebody to help me handle all that. It would be nice if I could find somebody to publish it. If you want one day, you might want to look out for those contacts. Oh, I know. A lot of people have been telling me to do a book. I need to figure out how to do that. Have you colored anything in heavy metal? No, I don't think so. I'm just looking through my email to make sure. No, I haven't worked for heavy metal. I did an issue of Judge Dredd one time. I lumped like 2000 AD and heavy metal. They lumped together in my head. They're both books that the entire comic industry is really impressed with and respectful of, and I just never got them when I was a kid. I don't know anything about them, so they kind of lumped together in my head. Did you go to art school? No. I've been drawing since birth, basically. I started very, very young drawing and never really stopped. But I'll give you guys. It'll help me if I show you guys sort of. This isn't what I will do in the video exactly, but it's kind of where I am leaning for the next episode. Give me a second, and you guys can tell me if this makes any sense or not, basically. See if I can find some examples that I haven't used already lately. Do. I don't know if I have enough together to go into all that, but yeah, maybe I'll wait on that. I don't know. Oh, we were talking about color relativity earlier. Somebody asked about it. This is an exercise I'll probably use at some point that I did real quick. So imagine this is, I don't know, something, a tree limb or something. Some rough trees with like a building, right? Same thing here. Building. This one's in a dark environment. This one's in a light environment. So if I were to ask you which one of these buildings is darker, which one looks darker? And some of you guys know where this is headed. But both of these are the same exact color. So if I pick this color here and draw a line straight across, you can see, I'll make it bigger. It's the exact same color on the houses. But I did create this just as an example to show how you can't look at a piece of artwork or even a single color and say like this is a dark color, this is a light color, because like this particular color here in the context of this one is lighter than everything else around it. And this one, it's darker than everything else around it. The color's the same. And so I say that just to make it clear that each piece is different and the dynamic range of every piece is different. So like how bright things get, how dark things get, all those things, you know, make a difference. I thought this was an interesting, actually. This is actually exactly 50% gray, if I remember right. Yeah, it's right in the middle. So, but yeah, when I talk about color relativity, that's what we're talking about. But yeah, any other questions, comments, concerns? What do you offer patrons? Patrons get a live class every month along with Twitch subs and YouTube members. I do a live class. It's usually Sundays, 10 o'clock Central. I first go through the Discord and all the artwork that's been posted in the feedback channel, which is members only. I go through that, get feedback to everybody's work. And then I usually just talk about something, whatever they want to talk about that day, or an idea, a lesson I'm working on, or give them kind of a sneak peek or something. And then all three types, it just depends on like patrons get a PSD file every month. They get their names at the end of YouTube videos, the YouTube tutorials, the full-blown tutorials. And YouTube members get access to the streams that are recorded, in addition to, you know, the little well, like when you can see here, he's got the little stone symbol. Anyway, those are members get those. And but yeah, patrons get a PSD file every month. Usually a bonus video. Not every month, but just about every month, I'll do some kind of, usually with the PSD file, I'll do a little breakdown on that file and what I was doing as I kind of thought through it. And so they get bonus videos sometimes too. But yeah. Is there a quick way to select 50% gray in CSP? I don't know about quick, but like if you click on the color picker thing, like if you double click that, you can pull this up and just, you know, set that to 50. Set the lightness to 50, I think it is. Yeah. But yeah, set this to fit, or the value to 50, either way. Yeah, it's actually setting the value. That'll get you there. I really enjoy your comic book coloring basics version 2.0 video. Thanks. That's an old video, but Google likes it. They like showing it to people. I need to do a new version of that in clip. I think the next video I'm going to make is probably going to be about books. I've had a bunch of people asking about books lately. And so I'm going to do like book recommendations. That'll be a simple one. I mean, I'm working on episode 2 also. That'll happen soon. Is the live class on Zoom, or how's it done? It's a unlisted YouTube stream. It's just a YouTube stream that's not public. All right. I'm not seeing any more questions, so it's been fun as always. Thank you guys for watching. I do have courses on. I'll just show you if you're not familiar. Let me show you real quick. I never do any, or I don't do a whole lot of actual showing this stuff on the streams. But if you go to you go to comiccolor.com, and there's I mean, on the home page you can get a link to the clip one just because that's the newest one. I've got that there. I've got a PSD you can download with 10 tips if you sign up for the email list. We got the YouTube. My courses are all over the place. They're on my website. They're on Skillshare. They're on Udemy. On my site, I do feedback for the students there. I don't do that on Skillshare and Udemy. And but you can see right here, there's a bunch of whoops. There's a bunch of here's the new clip course. This is a bundle with all the courses. We got a bundle of Photoshop courses, Procreate courses, and then here's all the individual ones that are in those bundles. So there's a couple in Photoshop. There's a couple for Procreate. There's 3 or 4 for Procreate, and a color, just a regular color theory course. And anyway, all these are available. There's 10 courses in there, I think. Nine courses. Yeah. And anyway, those are all available. And then it also, if you go to comiccolor.com, it'll break down what patrons get, what Twitch subs get, and what YouTube members get. There's a lot of overlap, but anyway, hopefully that helps somebody. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I will see you on the next one. Probably be soon. Take care.